Hi, I'm Kyle Gillette, and I'm a results leader.
You're listening to ResultsLeader.fm. Being a thought leader is easy. Getting results is hard. This show is for the results leader who lives and dies by their results. Here is your host and Chief Results Leader, Jonathan Rivera.
Yes, y'all. It is time once again for another ResultsLeader.fm. We are the only show on the internet dedicated to the men and women who are getting results for their clients. Welcome back to another edition. And as always, I've got an amazing guest who's going to share insights on getting results. Today, Mr. Kyle Gillette joins us. He's a business and mindset coach, the author of Sage Leadership, and the host of the Sage Mindset podcast. Let's jump in. Kyle, welcome to the show. Are you ready to rock this thing?
Let's do it. Yeah, thanks.
All right, let's give our listeners a quick win. What book have you given most as a gift?
Yeah, every time someone signs up with me, they can get 2 books. I have a list of really good books that I recommend to a lot of people, and I buy a couple books for my clients. And the one that is the killer one that I recommend to everybody is called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. 100% awesome book. It's essentially about goals, but much more in depth, and there's a great system to it. So 4 Disciplines of Execution.
Now I'm adding that to my reading list. Hadn't heard that one yet. So thank you for bringing that to the show. And I mean, we're talking about books. So, I mean, are you even going to name drop your book or what?
Sure. Yeah. I published my book on November 1st, which is awesome. It's called Sage Leadership, a 4-part framework for becoming a people-first leader. I'm really excited about that. It's been number 1 or in the top 15 for 30 days in various categories. So that's been pretty cool to see. I don't know if I expected that. I was hoping for it, but I don't know if I expected it. So that's really cool.
Well, congratulations, brother. Now it is story time. Tell us a story of how an apparent failure set you up for later success.
Yeah, when I first started my business, my main focus was on personality assessments, behavioral profiles, doing DISC workshops. So if people are familiar with DISC, then they'll know what it is. If they're not, DISC is a behavioral assessment, measures people's personalities, you could say. And there's this local petroleum engineering company that's a big deal to where I live. And I connected with the VP through my church, and we had talked, and I told him what I was doing, and I finagled my way into doing a presentation for his team. So the team was, if I remember correctly, about 8 people. And what I did was I did personality assessments, DISC assessments on each person, broke them down one by one over the phone or on video. And that was great. Went really well. People got a lot of value out of that. And then I said, why don't we do a workshop? And so the VP said, sure, let's go ahead and do that. And I had no idea what I was doing. It was maybe the 3rd workshop I'd ever done on DISC. And so I was already in over my head with this big corporation and not knowing what I was doing. I show up to the presentation. I've got my laptop, and the VP lets me know that there will be someone in Alaska, someone in Phoenix, someone in the room down the hall on the phone, and then 3 people in the room at the table. And if you've ever done a presentation before, you know how awkward it is to try to present to people live and people on the phone. It doesn't work pretty much. And my workshops are very interactive. So how do you get someone in Alaska to interact with someone in Phoenix with someone in the Seattle area? It just doesn't work. So I'm already really nervous. I can't get the presentation going. It's not functioning right. Finally, I get it going, and I start asking questions. Nobody's responding. Nobody's even throwing me a bone. It's just horrible. So I'm sweating. I'm literally sweating, wiping my brow because I'm so nervous about this thing. And then finally, an administrative person speaks up, and she starts sharing her perspective on something. And then it turns into a bit of a discussion for the rest of the time with the people on the phone. They're probably checking email the whole time. But hour and a half of torture later for everyone involved, I'm done. I walk out of the room, talk to the VP in the parking lot, and I'm like, hey, thanks for the opportunity. He's like, you did a good job. Thanks for helping us. It was really helpful for us. And I'm in the back of my head, I'm like, that's BS. This was trash. But I got in my car and I went, you know what? I can do so much better. And it was terrible, but it wasn't so terrible that it's going to make me quit trying to do this. So for me, that failure turned into a success because I went, I can kill it on these presentations. if I just was a bit more prepared and I would relax a little bit. And since then, I've done a ton and I absolutely love them. So that was definitely a massive failure, or what I like to say, a dumpster fire. So
Now, would the experience be the same? Do you still have the same experience if you have digital and in person? Have you done that since then?
let me think about that. Have I done digital? I don't recall doing both video or audio and live. So I think I've realized the danger of that. And I think I'd do better for sure, but it would still be a bit of a mess because it's just not a great interaction.
What would you say is the most worthwhile investment that you have ever made?
So I'm going to cheat maybe because I'm going to say two. So the one is really simple. My wife. I mean, not that I invested in my wife, but you invest in your significant others pretty significantly. So for sure that was I have to say that as number one, not only because I have to, but because I mean it. But in terms of business, I would say my first coach training that I ever did, I was 6 months into running my business, and I was already doing some coaching, but it had been from reading and studying on my own. And I wanted to do a real workshop and get real training. And I found out about this coach in Bellevue, Washington, and I decided to sign up. The catch was, it was, I think, $3,500 plus I had to pay for a hotel. So that was, $1,000 or so dollars because it was, or maybe it was way more than that because it was over the course of the whole week. I had to give up a week of work, pay probably closer to $5,000. And here's the catch. When I shelled out that money, that equaled $300 left in my business account. So if this training was a wreck or I didn't get anything out of it, it was pretty much going to be over for me because I didn't have a lot of wiggle room at that point. Fortunately, the training was phenomenal. Best training I've ever experienced in any capacity. It was so good. And I got 3 clients while I was getting the training. 3 people and I connected during the week. They signed up to work with me. So everything worked out beautifully. But I would say that the most worthwhile investment I ever made for my business would be that first coach training that I ever did.
Now, how does that work? Because weren't they all getting coach training too?
No, there was people that I had connected with previously and that we were in communication, and they decided, yes, let's go ahead and get started. So I'd been building up the funnel, as they say, and they spit out the bottom of the funnel while I was there, which was...
So you had some conversions, right? You had conversions that you had already worked.
Yes.
But then it gave you the confidence to continue. You knew you were on the right track.
Yep. Yeah, I knew that was okay. I'm good. I've got the next couple months worth of revenue to make this thing continue to work.
Dig it, man. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
The power of questions, using the power of questions. And then kind of underneath that is the more powerful habit underneath that really is listening. I'm not naturally a great listener. I'm more of a talker. My personality type is an influence style for those familiar with DISC. So I'm more of that feeling, emotional, I talk my thoughts out type. So to gain the skill and the habit of listening was tremendous. And I have to in my chosen profession, because coaching isn't about telling people what to do. Coaching is about eliciting from them their insight, their awareness. And in order to do that, you have to listen really deeply. For me, that would be absolutely the number one skill that's improved my life. And obviously that transfers into my relationship with my wife. I've got 3 daughters. So with my daughters, with my friends, that has been huge. And I haven't taken any necessarily formal training on it until recently. Recently, I started doing Toastmasters, and Toastmasters, yes, it's about giving speeches, but it's more about listening than anything else. Listening to the feedback that you get, listening to other people's speeches and learning from them. So I spend about 20 hours a week very intentionally listening to people. And that has fundamentally changed my life and actually changed who I am too. So I highly recommend listening. If you can recommend a skill called listening, that's what I highly recommend for sure. That habit is worthwhile.
How do you kind of go from being a talker to being more listener focused? Like, what are the steps? Because you have to work at that. So what are some practical steps that you have to do to help you be a better listener?
Yeah, for those that are talkers first and listeners second, third, or fourth, let's say, for me, I had to realize that everyone that I'm interacting with is actually really fascinating. If you listen to them more than just their words, but listen to their body language, their energy, what they're saying, how they're saying it, all those things, When you do that, they become far more interesting. And then you become way more curious. And that allows you to listen easier to them because they're just so much more interesting. Secondly, I don't know why I'm harping on these assessments, but I would say learn some sort of an assessment, whether it's DISC or Myers-Briggs or Enneagram, or there's something called predictive indicator. There's a lot of them out there. But what it does is it gives you this framework for understanding people's personalities. And once you have this framework, you can start to put people into the types that they are, which makes it a lot easier for you to be a listener because your brain's not working so hard to figure out what type of person they are. You already kind of know. And then you've got this set of rules associated with that people type. And then you can work through those rules as you're listening to them and interacting with them, which takes the burden off of you quite a bit and allows you to tune in even more to what's really going on with them.
What are some bad recommendations you hear in your area of expertise?
I would say that quote unquote expertise area for me is leadership and coaching. And I say that loosely because expertise is it's tough to say you're an expert in those arenas, but there's something that you hear often that's treat people the way you want to be treated. And I know that's the golden rule and it's beautiful in terms of relationships and that kind of thing. But in its own way, it's a misnomer. It's misguided because if I'm someone that is pretty passive and doesn't like to get in people's faces, doesn't like arguments, and you're interacting with me and you like arguments, you like to be direct and you like to be in people's faces, and I treat you that way, you like to be treated that way, so I treat you in this abrupt, abrasive way, that's going to be really uncomfortable and awkward for the person that you're interacting with because they don't want that. So often you hear that, treat people the way you want to be treated, and it doesn't work in communication. It's a mess if you treat people the way you want to be treated because most people aren't exactly like you. It's a lot easier to do it. No, it's not easier. The better angle is treat people the way they want to be treated. And that is the better advice. Twisting that around just a bit, treat people the way they want to be treated. But again, that means you got to study them. You got to know them a bit, which requires work. And people sometimes don't want to put that work in. And I think that's why often we just treat people the way we want to be treated because it's easier. But if you truly want to lead them and connect with them and get results from them, you're going to want to treat them the way they want to be treated, which requires doing your homework.
I like the way you flipped that there. Well done. We interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a public service announcement. We're going to get right back into this show, but I wanted to ask you a question. If you have been listening to the show for any amount of time and you've picked up even one single tip, then I need your help. Get the word out. Tell people about resultsleader.fm. Share it on social media, share it on your email, share it anywhere. Hashtag resultsleaderfm. Now let's jump back into the interview. Why do results matter?
I was thinking about this and I came up with a couple things. And the first one is motivation. If I'm not getting results, why am I even doing it? There's no drive if I don't get results. So when I'm getting results, that's going to motivate me, even if the result is tiny. We're not talking about, $1 million a year or $100,000 a month or whatever. We're talking about that little result. The person on the phone was indicating that they're probably going to say yes to you. That's a little result that can motivate you. I also think that when you have results, it gives you data. And that data proves that you're making progress. Without results, without a target that you're going for, you don't get data for it. And then you don't have anything to look at to see whether you're improving or not, whether you need to adjust or not. So when you get some results, that motivates you. And then that result also can give you data that you can leverage. It also means there's something you're striving for. If there's no result you're going for, then what are you striving for? Often when I'm connecting with clients, one of the first things we work on is, yes, goals. What's your goals? But what's the why? It's kind of almost a cliche now to talk about what's your why. But really, I like to say it this way. What's the compelling story behind what you're doing? It's so exciting to you that your brain is constantly thinking about it because it's so compelling and energizing to you. If you don't have that in mind, then your results don't matter because it doesn't feed you. It doesn't get you anywhere. So having that in mind. And lastly, results matter because sometimes you get the wrong ones or you don't get good ones. But that wrong result or bad result is an indicator of what you need to change, of some shift that you need to make. And that matters because we're not always going to get it right. And so the result that's a failure is fantastic because you get to learn from it and grow from it. So those are a few of the reasons that I was chewing on when it comes to why results matter.
In the last 5 years, what new realization has helped you get better results for your clients?
Yeah, helping them to figure out their own systems. I'm a systems guy, and I mean that kind of differently than maybe people think about, but helping them to realize that if they have success in their business and even a little bit of it, you can systematize that. You can turn that into a process, a procedure that can be consistently followed and then improved on. And I've been doing this for just over 5 years. Everyone now that I'm working with, I've realized they have very broken systems. Now, not every system is broken, but some are. And for some people, all of them are, unfortunately. But I've often found that when I help them realize, hey, you have a process here, you just told it to me. So I'll ask them about, how do you do sales? How do you do marketing? How do you get a new client? How do you onboard somebody? And they're like, I don't know. They don't think they have a system. But then I ask them questions about it, and they tell me this really wonderful system of how they got this great employee or how they got this great new client. And then we start to lay it out on paper for them. And they're like, wow, that's really brilliant. And then I tell them, yeah, you just told me this system in the last 5 minutes. So you already have it. But people haven't taken the time to think about how it is that they get the results and then document it so they can repeat it and improve it. That's been absolutely enormous for my clients and for myself. I mean, of course, I apply that as well.
What area of your business would you like better results?
This might be a cop-out, but better results for my clients. I hate it when, and I use that word intentionally, I hate it when I get on a call with a client and we're in the middle of the call. And yes, it's a good call. We're having a good conversation. They're making progress. But at the end of the call, I end it and I, hang up the phone or turn off Zoom and I'm going, man, they didn't go, oh, wow, you changed my life forever. I wish every single call was like that. That would be wonderful. So if I could do that every single call or every single coaching conversation or workshop or whatever, that's what I would like to see happen. That's the better results I'd like to see. And it's not possible. I get it, but I'm still going to strive for it.
You got me there. I was going to ask you, is it possible to give a breakthrough every time you talk to someone? That would be pretty brilliant, wouldn't it?
That'd be amazing. But we can get close. Maybe the breakthrough happens the next day.
What results are you most proud of?
I started working with this guy that runs a media company, and he came to me pretty reticent to do some coaching, but he knew he should. And so he stretched himself a lot to do it, to pay for it. And his business was doing okay, let's say. There was revenue coming in, but there were some employees that weren't a good fit. And he was really trying to make it work with them, but it wasn't going to work. And he had a lot of doubts about his leadership and what was possible. So long story short, fast forward 9 months, and we started making some big shifts in his business. A couple people left. He brought on a couple new people. He started to actually pay himself first. And so that made a difference. And then eventually, between paying himself first, the confidence that was boosted, and these new people, he's had his best year ever in his business. And he actually became man of the year in the city that we live in. So that was a really cool story for me to see that happen. Another one for me was writing this book, the Sage Leadership book, and somehow it miraculously and magically becoming number one on a few lists. And not forever, not for a long time, but it was on there. And that's really cool. So forever, I can claim that I'm a number one best-selling author, actually in a number of categories, which is really cool. So I'm pretty proud of that. And mostly because there has been a team of people that got me there. Yes, I wrote the original draft, but then I had a team of about 15 friends and colleagues dive into the book and give me very scary feedback. They read through one of my first drafts and gave me feedback, and then I made adjustments. And then I had an editor come through and make some more adjustments, and then I made my own adjustments. So it was really a team of about 20 people that stepped in and made this possible. So I'm really proud that I've surrounded myself with a team of people that have been able to get me to that place, which is not, I couldn't have done it myself for darn sure. And that's not just a cliche, that's the reality. And then one more, the last one is, and I might be cheating by giving 3, but the last one is I've made it over 5 years in my business, and more than 80% of small businesses fail within 5 years, half of them within the first year. And I'm not, oh, look at me, I'm better. No, it's just, wow, that's really cool. And I'm super grateful for that. And I'm proud of that. And this is my best year ever. Every year has been like that. This year is best year ever again. And I anticipate next year being the same. And that's really cool to be confident about that. So I'm proud about that as well.
Any parting thoughts you want to share with the results leaders who are listening to us right now?
Yeah. The parting thought would be get a little bit of coach training. Put that tool in your tool belt. I can train you on that a little bit if you want me to, but there's a lot of resources for that online. You can go and do a course. And I'm not talking about life coaching. I'm talking more along the lines of kind of a business coaching perspective. But the tip I would give is when an employee comes to you and is asking for a solution to their problem, don't give them a solution, ask them a question. And I'll give you a 4-word question that you can ask that will change your business if you ask it consistently. And that is, what do you think? When someone comes to you wanting a result from you, a solution for their problem, the employee comes to you, instead of offering 7 solutions because you're the expert and because you are the expert and probably because you know 7 solutions, hold that off and just turn right back to them and say, what do you think? 4 words, that's it. And it will change their experience with you. They will enjoy their work more. And you will be less burdened because people will be solving problems for you instead. So give that a try consistently. It's not a one-off. Consistently ask that question. It'll change your business. I guarantee it. That's a stamp of guarantee. 30-day money-back guarantee.
Oh, guarantee right there. Excellent. I know our listeners are going to want more. Where can they get more from you?
Yeah, go to sagemindset.com. It's the best way to get a hold of me. You can set up a call with me. You can find my book on there, my courses, all that kind of stuff. And then you can look Kyle Gillette up on LinkedIn as well. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn and Facebook. So those are great places.
And is there not a Sage Mindset podcast?
There is. It's true. See, forget about these things. Thank you. Yeah, you can, if you want to hear from me and the guests, fantastic guests on my show, just go to any of the podcast channels that you listen to and look for Sage Mindset Podcast. Yep.
I just want to point out, I had to force you to plug your book and your podcast, all right?
I'm a terrible salesman for myself.
Oh, man. Great having you on the show. We will have links to everything in the show notes. Thanks for hanging out with us, Kyle, and thank you, results leaders, for tuning in. Another episode is in the can. That is a wrap for another edition of ResultsLeader.fm. If you are out there getting results for your clients, and you want to be featured on the show, go to resultsleader.fm now and apply to be on the show. And if you love what you're hearing, share the show, give us a rating and review, do anything to help us get the message out there. Thought leadership is easy, but results leadership is hard. We'll catch you on the next one.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.